All right. Good morning. My name is Stephanie Rollins, and this is the South Carolina Commission on Disabilities and Special Needs. We are at the Disabilities and Special Needs Commission here in Columbia, South Carolina. It is May 19th at 10 a.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Robin Blackwood to read the notice of meeting statement.
A meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the May 19th, 2022 Commission meeting was distributed May 17th, 2022 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. Americans with Disabilities Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Okay, thank you, Robin. I just want to welcome all of our guests. We have lots of friends with us today. We have, I know we have the Head and Spinal Cord group with the Spinal Cord Day program, which I'm excited about having Tyler Rex and his crew here. We're also excited to have the Special Olympics team here today. And today is Employee Appreciation Day at DDSN. It's Employee Appreciation Month. The Commission was excited to be able to spend part of the day yesterday with our employees and our staff here at DDSN and thank them for their service at DDSN. And so it's going to be an exciting day at DDSN today. Let's begin. Commissioner, we have to look at the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is accepted. Now, we're going to ask Commissioner Thomas, who is joining us via the internet today, to do the invocation.
Well, yeah, I think it'll work by voice. So here we go. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you for the good folks that we have working for the department, and thank you for the commissioners, and thank you for our director. We appreciate so much, Lord, you giving us opportunity to be a part of solutions that folks so desperately sometimes need. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, this morning we have two sets of minutes. We had obviously a special call meeting yesterday to do really, we did nothing but go into executive session to work on our executive director's annual evaluation that we have to do. And then we also had the committee minutes from April 21st, 2022. Commissioners, you should have those in your packets or have received them. Is there any changes or amendments to the minutes that you see?
I make a motion that they're approved as both are approved as written as one motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second by Dr. Cohor. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes carry and the minutes are approved. All right, let's do the commissioners' updates. Commissioner Carr, do you have something? You're good? Mr. Blackwood?
I just wanted to thank the office for doing some really nice things yesterday and this month for our employees. We really appreciate the commitment, the work being done in this office and across the state for their commitment to the individuals we serve. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Commissioner Thomas?
Nothing except to, again, repeat my cell phone number for anyone out there in the world that is related in some form or fashion to needs of DDSN. My number is area code 864-630-9389, and that's my personal cell phone number.
All right. Mr. Woodhead? Okay. Mr. Miller? You got an event coming up this weekend?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, Dr. Fry is going to be in our parade, the Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Legacy Festival Parade. And the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs will be riding in the parade, and we'll be giving out some candies. And Dr. Fry is one of our guest speakers that will address those that will be in attendance. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune is going into Statuary Hall on July the 13th My wife is the mayor of Maysville, and she's the grandniece of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. So stay tuned. It will be screened. The National Press Club we will host an affair on July the 12th at the National Press Club there in Washington, D.C., which is very, very exciting. So stay tuned.
Very good.
Welcome.
Excited. Mr. Malphus.
The only thing I had was to thank Christy Lingard and the others that had an effort in making our meeting happen, which will be in Spartanburg next month, which I'm sure we'll get to at the end of the meeting. But I wanted to thank them for their efforts. That was a lot of effort to make that occur. And all those that had anything to do with that, thank you very much. And that's all I have for today.
Well, I do have a little bit of an update. I had the opportunity to go visit with the Florence Disabilities and Special Needs Board. I used to serve there, and it was nice to be able to go back for a change and get to spend a little time with them and just kind of update them on what the commission is doing, and invite them to join us anytime and to hear how things are going with them as far as fee for service and our changeovers we've experienced recently. And I must say, I got some really outstanding feedback from them. One of them, I want to give a shout out to our finance team. They said that they were just really impressed with how well the new finance team was working with them and how responsive they were being. And those were great words to hear from, a commission, to be able to go and sit and listen to them talk about, how our team is just really interacting with the providers in our network. And I'm excited that that's really happening. And I hope that our other providers will invite us to come and visit with them as commissioners, and that you guys will spend some time. I hope to be able to get down to Horry and Georgetown and Marion Mullins, Marlboro in the months ahead and visit with my folks down there. And so I encourage you all to do the same. All right, so that's kind of our update. I agree with Robin and Barry. Our team has been doing outstanding work the last month as far as employee appreciation and as far as setting us up for next month. We're going to have an exciting month next month up in the upstate. So let's move ahead. We do not have any public input. Is that correct still, Christy? Okay, today we have no public input, but we have some extremely exciting programs today. The first one is Tyler Rex. I want to welcome Tyler. He's with Thrive Upstate, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about the Head and Spinal Cord Injury Day program and his team. I'm going to invite them to join us. I'll let Tyler introduce everyone.
Good morning, thank you. I am Tyler Rex, Executive Director of Thrive Upstate in Greenville, accompanied here today by Kay Brooks, our Director of our Head and Spinal Cord Injury Drop-In Center and Services, and also especially accompanied by Ms. Dolores Sullivan, who you're going to hear from in just a few minutes, along with some other members of our Thrive Upstate HASKI team. So thank you for a little bit of time on your agenda today. Before we get going, I need to tell you about lunch yesterday. And I know you're probably thinking, Tyler, why are you taking a precious time to tell us about your lunch yesterday? Yesterday, I had what I would call a true power lunch with an individual who is a survivor of a traumatic brain injury, head and spinal cord injury, and had the opportunity to have lunch with him at Stack's Original Restaurant there in Greenville, if you're familiar with it. It's a very busy meat and three restaurant. And we sat there for about an hour, and it was like listening to someone explain an alternate universe to me. As this individual is just, he and I are less than a year apart. And as I sat and listened to his life, what it was like before his injury, and then what his life has been like since his injury in 2004. And I sat there and listened to someone explain what perhaps my life would be like, and what my needs and supports would be like if I had been in that vehicle with him. And so today we're very proud to tell you about the supports that we provide at our Head and Spinal Cord Injury Drop-In Center, which is located in Greenville, where we work side by side with survivors on their road to recovery and to quality of life that perhaps might otherwise be out of reach. This drop-in center is funded in part by state dollars. This drop-in center is located, as you'll hear in just a few minutes, near the heart of Greenville and in the community where we should be. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Kay Brooks, who is our expert on all things traumatic brain injury and really the driving force behind decades of great work being done there. And then you'll hear from Ms. Dolores, and then afterwards I'll come back just to wrap up and leave you with a few invitations for your consideration. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I want to start by just saying that we are very grateful for the funding that we have received from the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. I'm especially grateful for the leadership and support of Melissa Ritter. Brain and spinal cord injuries are common in South Carolina. You may be familiar with blast injuries and automobile accidents as a cause of a brain injury. But also, too, if you've ever had your bell rung, you've ever been knocked out temporarily. I fell off my bike when I was a child, had a concussion. If you've had a stroke, you've had a brain injury. So as I said, they're very, very common in South Carolina. It can happen to anyone. It can happen anytime. And so individuals who are served by HASKI were living what we may call a so-called normal life until, in one instant, life changed. There's lifelong consequences because of that injury. We are a smaller division. We serve a smaller population, but I believe that the HASKI division and HASKI programs are making a big difference in the lives of the individuals that we serve. I would just like to share with you a little bit about our program in Greenville. So I always think about the late Linda Valdir, the head of the head spinal cord injury division, and she recognized that services for individuals with brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and similar disabilities should be in the community where people have lived, worked, played, loved, in their home community. HASKI services have always been community-based from the beginning. Where we are at McAllister Square, as Tyler mentioned, we are Midtown Greenville. There's a restaurant. It's an Eggs Up Grill. We have South Carolina Works is located there, the Small Business Development Center. There are numerous nonprofits. The University Center of Greenville is a consortium. I believe at last count it was 9 universities and colleges that are affiliated with it. So the individuals who come to the HASKI program eat at that restaurant, have been to SC Works and collaborated there, have met with representatives of the Small Business Development Center. But also one thing that has really been great to see is just the development of relationships with the folks who walk in our mall, who go to the restaurant, who have become friends. And that's really been something great to see. I also really want to mention something that is really great about our HASKI program is that Midtown location means that it is accessible to people who ride public transportation. We are served there by the Greenville Transit Authority Green Link bus system, but also Greenville Area Paratransit offers curb-to-curb services for folks who live within 3/4 mile of an established bus stop. They can get be delivered from their door to the McAllister Square via paratransit van. And so that makes it really accessible. As we know, transportation can sometimes be a real barrier for folks in receiving services. And it also helps just boost people's independence. And that's a really great perk. But I think the greatest impact of the HASKI program upon the individuals we serve, upon the community, is the person-centered services that we provide at the HASKI program in small groups and one-on-one. We provide career preparation and day activity services. What is really unique too is that our calendar, our daily calendar, our daily schedule, our monthly calendar is specifically developed with the individuals that we serve who have brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and similar disabilities in mind. We have meetings every month, really ongoing conversations, sometimes quite robust conversations about what our activities are going to be for the month. Everyone gives their input. This results in a number of short sessions throughout the day when we're in the center and not out in the community. So this makes the required 5-hour program more accommodating for folks with brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, who have some challenges sometimes with attention, memory, and especially fatigue, cognitive and just physical fatigue. So this structure and support that we try to build into our day is evident through everything we do. When we're volunteering in the community, we think about those needs. When we're bowling, like we did earlier in the week with Lady D here, who did great. And also, you know, just at all times, we are always thinking about that. So our services also are informed by an understanding of the trauma that an individual can experience as part of a life-changing accident. So the folks that we serve can struggle sometimes with frustration, depression, and just overall adjustment to life after an injury. So every day in all we do, we are trying to provide an environment where we're helping individuals to develop strategies, figure out ways to implement them to improve their life and their independence, while also providing an environment that is supportive and also motivating. And the great thing too is that everyone there is sort of on this same journey. So they learn a lot from each other. Our services are effective, I believe, in large part because of the commitment to staff training that is part of our association with BSN, the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina, and the South Carolina Brain Injury Leadership Council. The Brain Injury Association and the Brain Injury Leadership Council offer the Life with Brain Injury Conference every year. I invite everyone to that conference. It's really good. It's 2 days worth of, you know, where we really can learn best practices, learn what's new in the field. There's opportunities to network with others. And this is attended by professionals throughout the state, survivors of brain injury, also their families and other caregivers. But also too, through the Brain Injury Association, there's the Brain Injury Fundamentals Program and the Certified Brain Injury Specialist Training Program, ongoing webinars throughout the year. And I believe that HASKI staff participation in this ongoing training that is made available is a big difference in the effectiveness of our services. So to summarize the way I feel about our services, they're person-centered. They're in the community. They're provided by well-trained staff. And there's a lot of opportunity for folks to just be in the community where they worked, lived, loved, played. It's the final rule. It's the spirit of the HCBS final rule. I think providing these services in the community is just the right thing to do. And so I thank you again for your support. And I would like to introduce Dolores Sullivan. Dolores, can I do anything to help you? I would like to just maybe say Dolores has been coming to our center about 2 years. Mm-hmm. When she comes in, the room lights up. Mm-hmm. And I know I've told Dolores that she's been an inspiration to me. And I think she really has to others too. Can I do anything to help you with seeing your paper, or are you good?
Just hold it.
You're gonna hold it, great.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you for coming. Me happy seeing me, and I'm thanking for just being here. I enjoy my program, and every day it's a joy to see different people, you know. And I've been going to high school about 2 or 3 years, but they had gave me a lot of stuff that I can do with my life. I'm trying to build me up every day, and they had me with depression and not trying to build on my getting better, and trying to get outgoing, get my life back in order. And I feel that they have given me much advice about living, how to live, and how to appreciate my life more. And it's a joy that they give me not to be so depressed on my situation I'm going through. They help me to know what to do, how to deal with things that people think is like walking do. And I does these things that they train me how to pick out bills and how to figure out how to figure out like my my work schedule if I had to work and if I want to get in order to have some more things to do. But they really helped me to deal with a lot of stuff.
Thank you, Dolores. Thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate that. Let me just wrap up with just leaving you with a few invitations to consider. The HASKI drop-in centers across the state are, as I mentioned at the outset, are funded using state dollars. And while it is appropriate and understandable for DDSN to be leveraging federal dollars for its programs, which fully supportive of, I also believe it's important that until we can successfully migrate programs like the HASKI program into that leveraged federal dollar environment, that it is only right and just for state dollars to be applied to filling gaps. Where there are gaps in the federal system, we invite you to consider to continue plugging those gaps using state dollars until we can successfully migrate to the new system. Rather than pushing a square peg through a round hole, we encourage you and advocate for that continued funding while we transition to the long-term leveraged federal dollars. We also encourage and invite you to, there are only a handful of drop-in centers statewide.
I was wondering how many are there and where are they, if you don't mind asking?
Sure, so there's obviously one in Greenville, in Charleston, here in Columbia, and Aiken.
Ori.
Thank you.
Ori and Aiken.
Not Aiken.
Not Aiken, just Ori.
Okay, okay, sorry.
So Greenville, Charleston, and Ori is what I'm
Okay.
And there are certainly more survivors statewide than are being supported in those drop-in centers. But it's natural that other providers need to see a sustainable model to say, okay, Tyler, we want to do that too. Can you sustain it? And I need to be able to confidently answer yes, go for it. Right now, my answer is, we're in a transition period. We need to see if we can successfully migrate this over to the new funding model that we're all been talking about for at length. So we invite you to not only continue to fill that gap using state dollars, but also to help us expand the supports statewide to survivors of traumatic brain injury. And with that, again, thank you for your time today, and we're happy to answer any other questions that you may have, but thank you very much.
A couple of questions. I have a couple of questions. Obviously, this is important to at least 3 of the commissioners. This directly affects our lives and our families' lives. So we do have, I'm sure Michelle may have some questions, and Dr. Cohar has a child that has the same situation. So I'm sure this is something that it's important to us. Can you tell us how a person could receive services at one of these centers, and how do they get more information if someone's watching that's interested in having someone use one of these facilities?
Okay.
Individuals who are interested in receiving services would contact the eligibility number here at DDSN and would apply for services. After they go through that process, now at this time, career preparation and day activity are waiver services. Melissa might be actually able to speak to the fact that there may be some state funding available for some individuals who do not meet criteria of the waiver, but I may be incorrect about that. But anyway, these centers are located around the state in 4 locations, as already has been mentioned. So that's the basic pipeline.
So do they go through their caseworker?
Yes.
Their
Their case manager would make that referral. Then leave out that critical point.
Talk to us about the gap funding that you mentioned. How much what are we talking about? How much is the gap? And what's missing is what I'm asking, Tyler.
Sure, yeah, that's kind of a moving target because of the unique circumstances of COVID and preparing for the 5th wave that we're looking at this summer. As far as how much gap funding is going to be needed when we are post-COVID, we're hoping eventually we want this program to be self-sustaining. And so we're advocating for a continuation of the current funding, the current grant funding for the drop-in centers, while we work on, there's the new independent living skills service that needs to be fully stood up, and that hasn't happened yet. There's other things that we need to do to make sure that once we are in a total fee-for-service environment with this, that it can be a program specific for these individuals that meets their needs. Lori, you and I have.
I'm here.
Yep, there you are. You and I have chatted recently about that, and probably could speak to it even more effectively than I could, about what gaps there still are in the system statewide from a HASKI perspective, to better answer Commissioner Rawlingson's question.
And we can work on that. I would like for us to spend some time. Actually, I know there's at least 3 of us that would like to sit down with you and look at the problems and see if there's a solution that we could come up with to help with that. Even if it's private partnerships that join us, that's something that we actually actively look for. And there are some opportunities here in South Carolina for some of that. Public-private partnerships are huge, and I'd like to see us really reach out to some of those situations and try to help with some of that. So please, let's engage and see what we can work on together. I'd love to collaborate. Michelle, I'm sure, Dr. Cohar, I'm sure would like to join us in that. You all. I'd love to see this expanded throughout the state. I see it as a huge issue. I mean, I know that, I end up meeting with a lot of spinal cord patients because they find out that my daughter's been through it and, has come out on the other side and is pretty much independent living at this point. And so they ask me the questions, how do we get, my child doesn't really fit into the day program. They don't really need to be putting together widgets. They're going to medical school, but they need help in transitioning. So those are key things that we've got to address. And those are individuals we've got to look at serving as well, because they are our constituents. So let's please put together a group, and we'd love to work with you all to help develop something. Okay?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned eligibility.
Yes.
What is that number for those that are listening? Does anyone have that number?
It's 1-800-289-7012.
Read it one more time.
1-800-289-7012.
289-7012.
012. So it's 1-800-289-7012, and they would be happy to work with you. So, all right, thank y'all so much for joining us. I know you guys have got to head out.
We're going to make way for the rest of your guests.
Okay. It was a pleasure.
In Greenville and the other one
You know?
together.
So we're hovering around 20, a little more than 20.
I believe we have about 25 now that we are serving at our center.
Do you know about the other centers, about how many they serve?
Yes. Some of those numbers have dipped because of COVID, but Babcock was serving about, Charleston routinely serves 10 to 11, and then Babcock is serving between 8 and 10, and Ori, I think, around 12.
Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you coming, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Doris.
Thank you.
You want to introduce the other folks with you, Tyler? I didn't.
Of course.
Sorry.
Yeah.
These are team members.
Come and leave.
So Angie Ballinger is our Director of Day Programs at Thrive Upstate. Angela Little is one of our amazing team members out at the Haskell Drop-In Center. And Frank is one of our superstars as well. So Frank, you can introduce, you speak for yourself.
My name is Frank Staten. I'm a survivor of 2 traumatic brain injuries. And I'm very blessed to have Haskell on my side, because for a long time, I didn't think there was anything after. After my second brain injury, I thought, it's done. I can't do anything anymore. And Kay and their team have shown me there is life out there and you can do something. You can be somebody. And it's been wonderful for me, and it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all so much for joining us this morning.
I'll get the door.
The next group we have today is the 22 Special Olympics team. And I'm going to let PJ, would you mind introducing these folks since you've been involved?
Yes, so the South Carolina Special Olympics, I re-engaged with them as basically the first week at my job. They asked me to get involved at the state level. So I was recently volunteering at the state games, and I met the CEO and the vice president, Barry, and I'm sorry.
Barbara.
I thought, this is so new to me, I'm still learning everything, but Barry and Barbara introduced me to the organization, and I invited them to come address the commission to talk about their national games that are coming up, so.
That's wonderful. We're glad to have you.
And good morning, I'm Barry Coates, the Presidency of Special Olympics South Carolina, and certainly appreciate Pacifica coming out for our summer games. Didn't know I was going to follow that. That's quite impressive. Very inspirational. But no, we've been wanting to come, talk to you guys for a while, and obviously COVID got in the way, and then we have ramped it back up, and it's been a couple of tough years for a lot of folks, but we certainly have weathered through it. Wanted to welcome Dr. Fry. We want to give you some time to get in your seat. We always come and visit the new directors when y'all come on board, and I've been around long enough that I've seen a few come on board. So I've been with just a little bit of my background. This is not the exciting part. I've been with Special Olympics 36 years. I started actually when I was in college part-time with them, and went from there. I have the unique position of being with Special Olympics. I know of one other person, I'm sure there are more, but I know of one other person nationally. I was with Special Olympics 13 years, had my first of 3 children. She was born with Down syndrome, and she has been an absolute blessing to me. She's certainly been a blessing to our program department, because she's been a guinea pig right along the way for programs that we've had. It seemed like her age hit perfect for our Unified Sports, our Young Athletes program, our Unified Champion School programs. She was right there, and it's been a great experience for her. A lot of people, we know we go through 40 days of Lent. We just finished 40 days of Erin's birthday yesterday. Thank goodness. So she just turned 23. And, I look at the importance of what Special Olympics does. And we know we're a fun sports organization. You see us on TV, on the PSAs. We're always having fun. We're running down a track or playing softball or basketball. And, I've learned over the years how relevant Special Olympics is because I've also gotten it firsthand. COVID was such we learned a lot of great things through COVID. We learned we can do these things, with our meetings and stuff. But we also learned, for us, how important we are as an organization. I have a daughter that's involved, and 2 years of isolation was tough. And, we saw a little bit of regression, not tremendously, but just the loss of that social world during that time. Special Olympics sports is probably 10% of what we are about. It is our backbone, but it's so much more than that when I see how it affected her and other athletes. We had her birthday party yesterday. Everybody there, all her friends that were there with and without special needs, which is a lot due to our unified sports, which y'all are a huge supporter of, come from her Special Olympics world or her school world, which still included Special Olympics because it was a unified champion school. And I see the friendships they've made. The social side of it is, as a parent, is just paramount to her, her comfort in life. And it's certainly, we also have Healthy Athlete Program that we're the largest healthcare provider for our population in the world. When it comes to, we have 7 disciplines, hearing, vision, things like that. So it's been tremendous over the years. And I look at how we've been able to accomplish so much. We're considered one of the top 5 programs in the country, little old South Carolina. And I would love to take all the credit for that, but I would not dare because the credit I will take is I have found tremendous people. I know without a doubt we're a rare organization. Our roughly 20 staff. Average tenure there is around 14 years, which is unheard of because I've got a couple that are a year. So you throw those out and it's up there pretty good. I'm going to introduce Barbara in a sec to talk about the fun stuff. Barbara's our Vice President of Programs, talk about national games and some other things she's doing. Barbara's been with us for 21 years. Now you can tell Barbara's not 60 years old. Barbara's still young. I think I got her right out of college, and I got, a few others that were shortly after college. And, that's been, to me, what has made our organization so unique in the world of Special Olympics. We're fairly unique that we have a staff that have been here a while, that know their job, that love their job. We're a lifestyle. This weekend is my 4th weekend in a row of an event, 5 out of 7 weekends, I think, and love it. Have a ball. My family goes. Our staff that don't have to be there come. And we do crazy things. We're real involved with law enforcement, I'm sure, as you've seen at different events. But, we do crazy things like polar plunges. We have a bocce bash this weekend at Benedict College football stadium. That's a fundraiser. We just had a 24 hours of nothing but net. Lady, an ESPN analyst in Charleston, made 100 free throws an hour for 24 hours. She's going to raise over $200,000 when we close this out from last weekend. And it was on Top 10 Sports Center, and they had a live cut into us at 12:30 on Sunday while Sports Center was going on. She did about a 5-minute interview on there. So those things let people know what we're about. It lets the community know that we're relevant, what's going on, that we serve a huge population. Our partnership with you guys, I've had a long time. It goes back to the 90s, and y'all have been super supportive of us over the years, and you still are, and I certainly appreciate it. I've worked hand in hand with a lot of folks over the years with funding that we've received. We love to give reports back and show you what we're doing. And unfortunately, a lot of, I've been here 36 years, so a lot of the people I knew have recently retired over the last few years. I miss them, but I look forward to meeting a lot of the newer people as well. But again, I want to thank y'all for your support of how much you give back to the organization that, that serves the population that we both have in common, obviously. Now, So I'm going to do this fun part. Barbara is going to talk a little bit about what we have coming up in the next couple of weeks, our national games in Orlando, Florida. We're one of the largest delegations there, which she'll talk about. But Barbara is our Vice President of Programs. So thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thanks so much. As Barry had mentioned, the countdown is on. Officially 3 weeks from this Saturday, Team South Carolina will load up in some charter buses in the Northeast Columbia area, and they will head to Orlando, Florida for the USA Special Olympics North American Games. So we're really excited to be the 4th largest delegation in the country heading to Orlando with 190 delegates from South Carolina. Of those 190 delegates, we have 102 that are individuals with intellectual disabilities. The other delegates represent unified partners, so they're teammates without intellectual disabilities. They're coaches, they're caddies, we have a medical staff that's going with us just to really ensure that that trip is as seamless as possible. There are going to be over 5,000 delegation members competing over the weekend, and they're representing all 50 states in the Caribbean this year, which is really exciting. So a little international flair thrown into the mix. I've had the great honor of being a part of the delegation ever since the USA Games came to be in 2006. Every 4 years, we take a delegation, and I can tell you that it's a tradition with South Carolina to go big, always. It's a great investment of staff time, of our money, of other resources, because it is a phenomenal experience for that delegation that goes. And there's so much more, as Barry had mentioned, than just sports. And certainly, sports are top-notch when you get to that level. I mean, they will be playing in state-of-the-art facilities, ESPN zones. Disney is a host, so it's going to be pretty incredible. I'm excited because I won't have to have hall bathrooms like we normally do during USA Games, but really there's so many layers of opportunities that come about during that week. Things like state-of-the-art health screenings and education opportunities, inclusion platforms, like to really spread that message on a national scale. We have, of all of our 15 sports represented, we also have inclusive youth leaders coming from Greenville County. So there's a lot of different layers of how that platform really gives us a voice to advocate for the message that Special Olympics is all about. I'm super excited. We have 15 different sports going, 3 of which are brand new to the national stage, and we're a part of each one of those. It's the first time equestrian, surfing, and what was the other one? Cheer. We have a cheer squad from Swansea Gaston that's going. So it's first time those 3 sports have been to the national games, and we will have delegates in all of those. But we do have 15 sports. So golfers, tennis, stand-up paddleboard, you name it. There's a lot of mix in there. A lot of unified teams. So again, those are those unified sports. It's inclusion on the playing field. If you've not seen it before, it's phenomenal. It's not volunteers helping our athletes. It's unified partners and athletes, teammates together, which is pretty fantastic. I did want to bring you guys some of our trading pins because this is a big hot commodity in the USA Games circle. So you'll have the official Team South Carolina pin. But I'm also going to share with you our latest brochure on transition. So looking at, we serve so many of our population at the school level. We want to make sure we retain them after that 18 or 21 years of age. And USA Games is just a drop in the bucket of all of the things that can be available to our 30,000 athletes that we serve across the state. As Barry mentioned, we're the 5th largest state program in the country. So, but we have a long ways to go. There's a lot more opportunities we want to provide to those individuals, a lot more individuals to reach. So we're trying to make sure that these go out to schools. They're in the final IEP meetings. They're available to parents to know how to continue, and for our athletes to continue for themselves to be involved. So I'm going to leave some of these with you all, but please see us as a resource. We would love to be available to support any families, any individuals who are wanting to continue to be involved. And I'm going to pass these out, but we certainly can answer any questions as well.
Mr. Commissioners. Two hours back to back. I was like, that's okay.
What type of equestrian events do y'all have there? Because I'm an equestrian.
I knew that was coming, I knew it was
A little
coming.
bit of everything, and we have equestrian athletes from Aiken and Beaufort, and Rock Hill going. And they do dressage, it's all English riding, so.
So what's your age
Equestrian
limit?
Oh.
What's your age limit?
Okay, that's funny. We have no age limit, so you know,
I
we
you were
have.
gonna say that, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't
Asking
quite
that
sure.
question because Barry wants to participate.
He's
ready. I'm his coach.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
I'm actually a Western person, so y'all can keep y'all's English stuff.
Hey, there are some Western saddle competitions. I don't think we have any.
Hopefully you
So you
will.
could bring that on for the next board.
Yeah,
Hopefully you will.
Maybe you'll be your next volunteer for equestrian coach. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
In the Beaufort area.
If y'all get a Western team going, let me know.
We
Anyway,
took a 72-year-old to World Games in 1999.
Barry, you still I'm his coach.
I knew it was Barry's coach, I'll volunteer.
yeah, I do it. Ed's gonna have to do it because he always sits next to me here.
Barry, run.
Thank y'all so much for your
Thank you,
support.
this is very exciting, and we appreciate you all being here and talking with us about this. I think it's very important that we maintain a good relationship, and please let us know what we can do to help you. PJ, we trust PJ to keep us informed as to what you need from us, and we're glad to help.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, our next program, our next meeting, this is kind of exciting. We have Employee Appreciation Month here at DDSN. I'm going to invite Morgan Foster and Liz Lemon to join us.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Sorry, we were all looking down and you all
It's great to follow you guys up. That was fantastic. So it's a great honor that our agency is able to serve some of South Carolina's most vulnerable populations. Our vision, mission, values, and principles guide DDSN staff to perform the most vital of functions. And it is those staff members that I wish to recognize and celebrate today. We are privileged to have you at DDSN and are incredibly thankful for your many years of steadfast dedication and faithful service to the citizens of South Carolina. At this time, I would like to recognize those employees who have reached state service milestones during the 2021 calendar year. This time, I would recognize those with 10 years of state service, starting with Pamela Allewine, Intellectual Disability and Related Disabilities Division. Sheila Foster, Autism Residential Operations Division, certificate and pen accepted on their behalf by Dr. Kenneth James. Regina Jones, Autism Residential Operations Division, certificate and pen accepted on their behalf by Dr. Kenneth James. Annie Moss, Intellectual Disability and Related Disabilities Division. Now I will recognize those with 20 years of state service. Ann Dalton, Quality Management Division, certificate and pen presented by Harley Davis.
Would it be better for them to be against the wall up here, or what's?
Are you doing it afterwards, or would you like to be Ann?
We'll do it afterwards.
Afterwards.
Stick around, we'll take pictures.
Definitely want pictures.
Absolutely. Melody Dodgen, Eligibility Division, certificate and pen presented by Brian Hawkins.
Okay.
And Patrick Middleton, Information Technology End User Division. At this time, I would recognize those with 30 years of state service, starting with Terry Maple, Procurement and Supply Division, certificate and pen presented by Candace Goldston. And last but not least, Richard Von Hollen, or Steve Von Hollen, Clinical Services Division, certificate and pen presented by Janet Priest.
Wow, congratulations.
During the employee appreciation events held at the regional centers throughout this month, staff members who have reached their milestone year of state service during the 2021 calendar year were also recognized. We look forward to recognizing those who achieved their state service milestones this year, 2022, next May. Again, the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs thanks you again for your dedication and service.
Thank you all.
All right, do we want to do pictures before we swap over? We'll do it at the end. Fantastic. Yeah, we can bring in the employee of the years for the regional centers.
Yes, take pictures.
Got a lot of folks with me.
That's all right. What's your part?
We're recognizing.
That's what we like to see.
People.
We need a bigger room, don't we?
We're
outgrowing our room.
For this day, yeah.
There are seats up here.
These are empty. Yes, ma'am. Either one. The chairs up front, if you guys wait for me.
All right. So, as South Carolina public servants are recognized each May, it is only fitting to recognize and congratulate the employees of the year for each respective regional center. These employees exemplify the agency's vision, mission, and values and have far exceeded the expectations of their positions. Each of the regional center employees of the year will be awarded a bonus and certificate. At this time, I'd like to invite Tom McDaniel, Director of Facility Operations, to say a few words.
Morning, everyone. Before we get the nominees up and recognize the excellence, would like to just hang out a little framework and really the traits that stand out to me about these individuals and kind of what they represent and do for our agency. So, of course, one is courage. Another is certainly their service and what those things represent and do for us. So throughout the public health emergency, which we're 2+ years now, these folks have gotten up every day, no telecommuting, no Zoom meetings, and they've come in day after day and performed, delivered to our consumers. They did it in a context of a world of uncertainty. They overcome personal fears, and they showed up, and they did what they were going to do. Their service, I mean, it speaks for themselves. They do some of the hardest work in state government and this agency, and they do it at their own personal regard and sacrifice. They all have stories. They all have lives behind their service. It's their families who sacrifice and really serve in their own right as they support these folks and what they do, which is pretty remarkable. So I encourage the nominees to please thank your family members and significant others and the importance of that. And, you know, certainly to Dr. Fry, Chairman Rawlinson, the commissioners, I do thank you for your leadership. The regional centers and autism rehabilitation homes and supervised living programs are receiving unprecedented support. I challenge you to continue to move the needle as we close the gap in operations and normalize for our employees consumers and their loved ones. Again, to our nominees, thank you for showing up to take ownership of your excellence, for representing your 1,300 teammates, and just overall, taking ownership of your excellence. It's vitally important. Again, thank you for the 1 minute of fame. Let's get them up and recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And how do I follow that up? Okay, so at this time, I would like to recognize the Coastal Regional Center Employee of the Year, Brianna Green. Ms. Green has worked with the agency for 5 years as a direct support professional 1. I invite Annabelle Simmons, Coastal Center Residential Director, to speak with you about Ms. Green.
Good morning, everybody. Ms. Green is the picture of dedication and commitment. I'm going to be very brief because when you think about dedication and commitment, Brianna is there, day in, day out. It doesn't matter. Brianna herself has a disability, but she does not allow that disability to prevent her from having the ability to serve and the willingness to serve. And that's what it's all about, being committed and being dedicated. And this is Brianna Green.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Simmons, I think you stole my script. At this time, I would like to recognize the Midlands Regional Center Employee of the Year, Arlethea Birchmore. Ms. Birchmore has worked with the agency for 2 years and is currently an Administrative Specialist 2. I invite Anesta Gass, Midlands Center Director of Residential Supports and Staff Development, to speak with you about Ms. Birchmore.
Good morning, everybody. I am so excited today to present Alethea, and she's getting married on Sunday. So I'm even more excited about that. So this is a double honor for her today. She started as a DSP in our high management female building. So she came in running, okay? And she has done extremely well. She got promoted to the administrative specialist for residential supports and day supports. And I will tell you 2 words that I can think of when it comes to Alethea is excellence and supportive. Even now as an administrative specialist, if we have anything going on with any of the people that we support, she's like, Ms. Gass, you need my help? She will go in the building and work if we have to. Okay, so I do want to say thank you, Ms. Birchmore. You've done an awesome job, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you. Okay. I would like to recognize the PD Regional Center Employee of the Year, Angel Profit. This Profit has worked with the agency for 29 years and is currently a direct support professional 3. I invite Franco Vival, PD Facility Administrator, to speak with you about Ms. Profit.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I did write a little something, so I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. All right. First and foremost, Profit, we thank you. 29 years of service, truly appreciate it. At PD, Angel Profit, the prophet that is Angel. There aren't enough great things I can say about her. She goes above and beyond for her job duties. Angel worked tirelessly to ensure the schedule has coverage at all shifts, and when it does not, she makes sure she's in coverage. She cares for the staff, both professionally and personally. Angel trains them to ensure that they are doing their job correctly, and she encouraged them to grow. Most importantly, she knows and loves our individuals who we serve. She's able to tell you everything about them. It's my pleasure to be able to work with this process. And we want to say thank you for your service.
At this time, I would recognize the Salibi Center Employee of the Year, Dana Stone. Ms. Stone has worked with the agency for 8 years as a licensed practical nurse 2. I invite Van Chapman, Salibi Facility Administrator, to speak with you about Ms. Stone.
Good morning. It is a wonderful opportunity to be here today, not only with a fellow employee, but a true friend. My mother always said, if you can't say something good about somebody, you should keep your mouth shut. Well, I'd be here all day about Dana Stone. She is a wonderful nurse. How many of you have heard about the word active treatment? Well, she can take meds and make a med pass, an active treatment program. If you walk down the hall, she's got music jamming, and she has those consumers at Salibi Center rocking. She's dynamite. I mean, I can stay up here all day and just continue. It is not only an honor, but it is a privilege to work with her. There's 2 words I want you to take from this meeting today. Good morning, sunshine. When you go to work and you hear that from Dana, it makes our day so much better. And everybody that she passes, it's good morning, sunshine. So I love you.
Just a minute, I just want to recognize Dana. I got to visit Salibi and did a tour, and it was just like you said, good morning. I mean, she was very friendly. Her patients just love her. And I appreciate what you do. I got to witness you actually in action, and you do a great job.
We were on our way up here this morning. She's had a couple of days off, so she's been away from us. And she was in the back, and Stuart was driving. He was just driving the bat out of what. Trying to get us here. And she sits back there and she says, I've been missing Gina all week. Well, if anybody knows Gina, some of those that have toured, she can show out, honey. She can put on a show. But she has missed her. So, I thought, hey, she's thinking about our people while she's even at home.
Exactly.
Thank y'all so much.
I'd like to recognize the Whitten Regional Center Employee of the Year, Paulette Golden. Ms. Golden has worked with the agency for 22 years and is currently a direct support professional too. I invite Craig Bird, Whitten Center Facility Administrator, to speak with you about Ms. Golden.
Thank you. Good morning. I am honored to be able to speak about this young lady standing next to me. Although I've only been at Whitten Center for a few short months, she has risen to the top as one of the superstars at Whitten Center. We have 4 medical units, and she is the only supervisor in one of those units. And it is one of the only medical units it is the only medical unit we have that we're not having to deal with challenges of supervision as well as having the coverage that we need. She leads from the front. She works with in the unit when she needs to be there on coverage, and she is just a beautiful person. 23 years of service with the organization, and not only that, but last year, 6 months, she was without a assigned direct support manager in her unit. Of course, there was someone assigned to support the paperwork side, but she basically ran that unit and did a fantastic job. Unit 209, I never have to worry about it. Paulette's there, and she is the reason that we don't have to worry about it. And thank you for all that you do, and thank you for leading from the front and leading the folks that believe in you so much. And thank you for caring for the individuals that we serve, because that's why we're here. So thank you.
lastly, I would like to recognize for the first time ever, the Autism Residential Operations Employee of the Year, Lynette Mills. Ms. Mills has worked with the agency for 10 years as a direct support professional 1. I invite Kenneth James, Autism Program Manager, to speak with you about Ms. Mills.
Good morning. While Ms. Mills is not here, we're still going to celebrate her as if she is here. Her actual supervisor, direct supervisor, is here, so I'm actually let him speak about her. Okay, Odell Perry.
Yes, well, Neil is not here today, but I'd like to say Lynette is one of the most outstanding employees we ever had. She's one of the only person that I can remember that have worked the whole year without taking any sick time or any time off. And she just was very dedicated, hardworking, always there. And I kind of like clone her from me. So she basically, I kind of like move, if I could have like 10 more of her. And she basically is always on time, always willing to help, lend a helping hand. So she really what makes the Millen program go and be the best that we can be. So I just want to say thank you. You know, she's not here for all her hard work.
Thank you. Each of the Employees of the Year were nominated for the overall DDSN Employee of the Year Award. With votes cast from previous year's nominees, I am honored to announce that the overall 2021 South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Employee of the Year is Paulette Golden of Whitten Research Center. Thank you all.
Thank y'all. I just want you, both the HR department and how much we appreciate you and all of our employees. You guys are what makes us work, and you guys are what makes this agency move forward and take care of our constituents. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate you, and we appreciate what you do and the service you give to this state. I know many of you give more hours than you get paid for, and we appreciate it. We sincerely. Anything else? We'll make it up. Yes. Commissioners, would you be agreeable to a 15-minute break? Okay. Let's take a 15-minute break for comfort. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Lou Gossett just texted me. I'm picking him up tomorrow at 1:56 here in Columbia. And I didn't give him a choice to come by the agency, so that and all the recipients are invited. I'm going to pick him up at 1:56, and I'll be here at Dr. Fry at 3:30. Are you available?
I will be.
Gotta put you on the spot there, but okay.
I think it would be appropriate to have all of the recipients, if possible, to come and as well as all of the employees. We can do a photo of the recipients and then do a group photo of those representing South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs. So we can decide a press release and then get the media here so that we can really shine.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Anything else from HR?
That is it.
Okay, let's take a 15-minute break so we get some photos of all of our recipients, and then the commission will come back into order, okay? Call us back to order. All right, commissioners, we are back in order. Thank you all for accommodating us with all of our wonderful employees today for their photos. I know they appreciate it. I know the commission appreciates them and the staff for helping us work through that. Let's move forward now. We are going to go on to committee business. I do need my reader so I can see the agenda today. The first thing is today we're going to receive a report from the nominating committee. We're not voting on anything today, but I know you all have met.
Yes, we did.
Can you give a report?
Yes, so the nominating committee met on May the 9th, and we have the following slate of officers that would begin in June after the next commission meeting in June. These officers would start their one-year role or position at that time. And so For the chair of the commission, we would, we're slating that you, Stephanie Robinson, would continue to serve as chair, and that our vice chair would be Commissioner Barry Malthus, and the secretary would be myself, Robin Blackwood. And that came out of committee as the slate, and so we can vote on that, I guess, like you said, in June, but that's the slate.
Okay, that'll give you time to think about that, and we will make a decision at our June meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, let's move on to finance, please.
All right, so our Finance and Audit Committee met on May the 4th, and we just have 3 items to share with you. One that we actually do need a vote on, and that will be our 3rd item, but the first is simply our normal threshold reporting that the commission requires for the agency to share with us. And just as last month, there were no new items for approval within that threshold, so that is the same for this month. So we have nothing, which is of course under our normal tab 3 that kind of breaks that out. And so that's my first report for that particular item on the agenda. And the next item on the agenda is our consultant report. We asked the agency to pull together all consultant agreements for the fiscal year 2022. We reviewed those in our meeting. We asked for some edits to the some of the information, some additional information, so that it was a little bit more comprehensive for the full commission. And so on tab 5, you will see the consultant agreements that the agency has with consultants. A lot, as you will see, are nursing and staffing agreements, but we have them all listed here, and our plan is to provide this list, to review this list quarterly in the Finance and Audit Committee, and then share that list with the full commission as and note any, of course, any changes from the prior quarter. But this is the current report, and the details are there for anybody to look at. And then the anything else on that, Barry, that you wanted me to mention regarding the consultant report? I think I mentioned quarterly. I think I
was just going to say that
trying to make sure I didn't forget anything.
I was just going to say that was due to a policy change that the policy committee made regarding consultant contracts, and that's why this came up. And from henceforth, the finance committee will decide which ones the committee sees. I mean, the commission sees, and unless there's an objection from any of the commission members, and we'll go from there.
All right, so the final item from our Finance and Audit Committee meeting that we wanted to share today that actually needs a vote is what is behind tab 5, and it's the 2023 Comprehensive Permanent Improvement Plan, often called CRIP. Every year we look at a 5-year plan. Of course, it changes slightly year over year because we typically try and work on the items from year 1 in any given plan. So the following year, those items we should basically move off of that year 1 list because we worked on them the year before. So in this case, you're going to see for today the comprehensive 5-year plan for improvements, capital improvements. And the first page of the tab should have everything detailed for year 1. Because that is what they will work on first. So you can see Coastal Center is the first item on the list, the first and second item on the list, and then Midlands is third. So these items are detailed in terms of what we'll actually be working on, the agency will work on. which is part of the overall 5-year plan. And so we discussed this in our finance and audit meeting and made a few little minor edits to things, but we need the commission to approve it, and we approved it in committee, so it.
Motion, yes, motion, second. Okay, so this is a motion and a second out of committee. Commissioners, have you all had time to review this, and do you have any questions about this before we move forward?
These are works that'll be done this year.
Parts of it, I believe. Would you mind, I'm gonna let Andrew address that. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Andrew Theron here, the Director of Engineering here at the agency. The year one items we intend, if we get commission approval, we'll send the package downtown, this whole 5-year package downtown for their approval. And once they approve it, we intend to open every project on the year one.
That's the second page, correct?
Yeah.
And it divides it by project.
Yeah, well, the detailed sheet, the ones that give kind of the summary for each project, that's our whole year one list. And once we get approval on the 5-year plan, we will send all phase one approvals downtown for the year one items, and we would be looking to get those projects rolling. So will they all be complete within year one? You know, that's hit or miss depending on the project type. But we intend to open them and get them started. So.
Andrew, I know there was a lot of confusion the first time we ever saw, a lot of us when the first time we ever saw one of these. And I know that once you get this approval, you still come back to us and say, okay, we're going to be doing this. And once the bids come back, so you will see a bid on these projects.
Every time
this is our estimate.
That's correct. Every time we bid one of these projects out, we will bring it to the commission for approval if it's over $200,000 for a bid consideration before we move forward with the contract.
So this won't be the last time you see these, most of these projects. But I just didn't want you guys to think we were doing it twice. But we have to approve their 5-year, and then they bring back the individual bids to us to approve as well.
You'll see them all on an individual basis as the year proceeds.
And the reason we do it in 5-year increments is because the state requires that.
That's correct. Yeah, they require a 5-year plan from every state agency every year.
Okay. And this may adjust, am I correct, once we get our strategic planning done, is that correct? We will have to make adjustments to this 5-year.
It could, I mean, my suspicion is that I anticipate that if anything, just would increase our emphasis on these improvements.
Okay.
I think the bigger area in which I would say we might want to adjust is we are working on an assessment of needs for our regional centers right now, but I think that most of that is contemplated within.
A lot of that is off of this too. A lot of it's smaller type projects that don't hit that $100,000 threshold that's required to be on this list. You know, we're doing a lot of smaller projects that are under that threshold. So.
Okay. That's great. I just wanted the new, especially the new commissioners, because I remember when we first came, it was like, okay, why are we approving this? Didn't we approve it one time before? So I just wanted you to be aware you will see it again. Any other questions for Andrew while we're looking?
Would you say that the reality is that year 2 through 5 could change based on what occurs, and everybody needs to realize that. So really it's an approval of this year's projects and then sort of a tentative approval of the next 4.
That's correct.
Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions?
No, none.
Okay. All right, commissioners, are you ready to vote? All in favor of approving this plan as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing no nays, the motion carries, and this is the 5-year plan. Okay.
That concludes my report for finance and audit.
Thank you. We appreciate your work today. Policy Committee? Mr. Mountain.
Thank you very much. I'm the Policy Committee Chairman Barry Malphurs for the Commission, as everybody here knows, I think by now. I'm going to allow Ms. Manus to come up and do the ones that relate to, if you don't mind, the ones that relate to that we sent to staff like we normally do. Those are the first 3 on this list. The first one is 125 that's the Preparedness Plan.
Sure, so all three of these directives were deferred to staff. There were some significant overhaul to the disaster preparedness plan, something that needed to happen. So we worked on that very extensively. We also made some changes to 60302 and 60305. All of those changes were posted to the website for 10-day review. We did not receive external review. We did not receive any comments about any of them. So at this point, we're just asking the commission to consider them for approval.
Okay, then, well, we need approval on them.
Right, you want to do?
So as I look at all these that are in our packet, they're all strike through. So what exactly are we approving? Like most of the documents are not, or.
So if you look for what's not through, that's what you're approving. So disaster preparedness, if you look to the back of it, you will see the directive is 2 pages long, right? If you go all the way to the back, what we had was a plan as a directive, right? Which is not really the intention of a directive. The directive, the old directive included the entire disaster plan. So what we did was we changed it to the policy directive about what needs to be in a disaster plan. So that's why
the plan can change.
Correct. And may need to change over different circumstances.
Based on what happens.
Correct.
Yeah, if you had people like.
Okay, that makes sense. I wasn't sure exactly why I was trying to figure everything out.
But that's why there was so much removed from that one, because we kind of just said, let's just kind of start over, right? And just do a directive that says, here are the things that need to be in a disaster plan.
Right, so this content that is useful, that does need to be provided to the providers, just will not be in a directive, it will be in a separate.
Just a fact.
Okay, plan, okay.
Perfect.
Because it had like contact information, right, protocols, those things, I mean, they still need some of that, don't they?
Well, providers develop their own disaster preparedness plans. So they use the directive and they need to come up with protocols, who to contact. It's different, different areas of the state. So if they want to see our disaster preparedness plan, it's not, secret. If they want to use it to kind of help them. But over the years, providers they've always kind of had their own. They haven't adopted ours. Okay.
Right.
Makes sense. Okay. Any other questions on that?
Except to say that it comes to a motion and a second, a committee to vote on
Okay.
that one first.
If there are no further questions on this information, committee members, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, and this is approved. This is 125 DD, and it is approved as changed. All right, the next one is, what, 603, Barry?
It's 60302 DD, which is employee health requirements, and I will allow Ms. Roy to elaborate on that, please.
Right, so the big change in this one is around the requirements for free of obvious communicable disease. Basically, there's a directive about TB screening. So instead of putting in this directive what's in the directive related to tuberculosis screening, we kind of took all of that out and just said follow that directive related to screening, because if something changes, then we have to change it in 2 places. So the concept there was just to make that change. There was a couple of other little edits in here, but nothing really substantial unless you guys have questions.
I do.
Okay.
Under the first one, under pre-placement physical examinations, ability to lift 20 pounds, squat, and return to a standing position. What if we have an employee who's in a wheelchair?
So this is about employees of the regional centers who are providing direct care to people. This is not, the applicability is regional center employees, not employees who work in an administrative office.
Okay. All right.
So the regional centers don't have administrative people? I mean, they don't have people that do administrative stuff?
I just want us to be careful. I want to be careful that we don't exclude disabled folks from being able to work in our facilities.
So, for example, the FA is considered an operations employee. And so it's sort of a central office employee. Or if the HR individuals, they report to central office. So there's a kind of a distinction of being, for example, this would apply to a DSP or an RN, LPN at the centers. It would not apply to those types of central office. If there are concerns, we can make sure we analyze and ensure that it is fully compliant where.
I'd like for us to make sure we're fully compliant because there are RNs who are in wheelchairs and there are DSPs who are in wheelchairs who can provide certain services. And I want us to make sure that we're not excluding individuals with handicaps from those jobs. I mean, what if we have I don't know what we would have, but, I just want to make sure.
We will ensure that we are mindful of any potential accommodations that could be made.
Yes.
But also we have to ensure that, I know specifically, from a civil rights perspective, that an RN's role is one in which you can have very specific requirements of what their physical needs need to, what their physical performance, because they have to be able to perform the job. So we'll talk with Constance and we can bring it back next month.
And maybe just find out about, maybe we could put in there if somewhere that if we can make accommodations to, then we will, you know what I'm saying? If accommodations are possible, that we will do that. Does that, you know what I'm saying? I think just for,
we will bring a memorandum.
Yes.
That describes what the job requirements are and why they are drafted the way that they are, and whether or not there's a determination of possible accommodation.
That's great.
The proper thing to do would be to bring it back to the policy committee and then to bring it to the commission after that.
If y'all don't mind, I mean, I hate to ask that, but that would be something I would like for us to just look at to make sure. All right, well then we'll table that one. Is that what we want to do, commissioners? And send it back to policy? Yep. Okay. All right.
Okay. And then the last one is 60305, which is about management of bloodborne pathogens. There really wasn't any change to it, but it's redated because it was reviewed.
Okay. Commissioners, all in favor, please signify by saying aye for 60305DD. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and 605DD is approved. So we only tabled one.
The last item on our agenda is one that you've seen a couple of months ago. It's the code of conduct policy. During in a couple of months ago, we looked in the committee about asking the staff to reevaluate the limits that on gifts between employees, particularly relating to influences of one employee to another. And we made an effort to make that policy much less ambiguous. It's on page tab 9 at the top of page 3, and it's much more, while there's not a dollar amount there, it's much less ambiguous as to how that would as the importance of that and how it relates to the Ethics Act directly, and so I'm much happier with the way that looks now. So I would ask that we reapprove that one as it is. The motion and the second coming out of the policy committee, which we discussed there.
All right, so there's a motion and a second out of committee. Is there any questions for Commissioner Malphurs on this one? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it, and the motion 41303DD is approved.
Thank you, ma'am, and that concludes the policy committee report for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Malphurs. We appreciate your work on this. All right. Legislative Committee, Commissioner Miller.
Good morning to all.
Good morning, sir.
To all, good morning.
Good morning.
We'll have Ms. Carol Stewart from the Talent Group to give us a closeout on the legislative session.
Wonderful.
And while she's coming up, I just want everyone to know that the Talent Group, they're doing a marvelous job. Appreciative of that. And also Commissioner Core and Commissioner Thomas, I'm always under their advisement.
Good.
And I'm extremely appreciative. And on the Hill, the legislature is extremely pleased with the work of Dr. Fry. And I wanted to commend you publicly for doing an outstanding job. And we look forward to next year carrying out the orders of the legislative committee.
Well, I'm very grateful. Thank you. Commissioner Miller has been up to the Capitol and seen us in action a couple of times, and we appreciate his support and being in with us and speaking to a number of policymakers and legislators on behalf of the commission and DDSN. Just to wrap up the year, and I have to start off giving Rob McBurney a huge shout out because he actually, we've worked hand in glove on a number of things up there, and he actually put together the report that you see in writing here that I'm going to reference as I go through sort of what's happened. I'll add a few more little pieces into it, but from what you've gotten in writing. But I think that the biggest news is the budget has not been finalized. It's going to conference committee June 15th, the day after the primaries, interestingly enough. But both House and Senate did fund the priorities of DDS and the priorities that you set, funding priorities for the agency. So we shouldn't have any problem in conference committee with the agreement on that. In addition to that, I'll give you just one sentence on this. There was added in the very last minutes of the session, $1.5 million for intensive residential homes. And that is not in the Senate version. So that will go to conference committee and could well come out. So I just wanted to let you all know that that is a possibility. And I know it would be welcome to receive that additional funding if we're able to get that. There were several bills. Well, first let's do the regulations because that's what Rob has next on the list. The 4 regulations that were submitted all were enacted this session. You may recall one was for full repeal of that regulation, and then there were 3 on research eligibility and appeals. So we were happy to see all those regulations get through the process this year and not be asked to be withdrawn. A couple of bills did die that we have been monitoring for you. One is the, and both of them relate to the commission. One was to make the commission a cabinet agent, or the agency a cabinet position, and agency, I'm sorry. And the other one was to change the qualifications for commissioners. Neither of those bills had action, and both died at the end of this session. And then the bills that did become law were several that we were watching. One was ending discrimination for organ transplants passed by both houses, and that one is on the governor's desk. And then there was one that created the task force that I reported on last time for ending subprime minimum wages to people with disabilities. That's a task force that will issue a report August 2024, and amended to that was the Employment First initiative that is aimed at encouraging the hiring of people with disabilities. That one also is on the governor's desk. The Department of Mental Health has asked for some changes to the Adult Health Care Consent Act. They don't affect our priorities, and I believe the governor actually has signed that in the last couple of days. Then the last one is House Bill 1059. That one's not on your list right now, but that one allows medical technicians to now administer some types of medications in community ICFs. So I don't think any of the legislation that we worked on with you did not receive favorable approval in terms of policies and laws that we're enacting. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Any questions?
Will we be working on, when we go back, I know they go into session to vote on the budget, but legislative session begins when next year?
Next year, it always starts on the second Tuesday in January.
Okay. So between now and then, we need to set up a legislative agenda for next year. And let's decide what our priorities are going to be. As far as regulation changes, I don't know that we have what we have, but we need to start looking at those now. And
part of that planning process.
yes, let's aim for having that ready to go early fall, so that we can look at it as a commission and decide what we want to proceed with and move forward with those issues.
And we look forward to any recommendation that any other commissioner may have.
Sure, sure. And I think we will have some. I've got a couple that I'd like for us to look at, so we'll get together on that. I would encourage commissioners when do y'all do your monthly meetings? What day have y'all decided on? Y'all set a date yet?
We haven't really settled on a specific date yet, but we'll do that.
Yeah, once y'all decide on your monthly meeting date, if any other commissioners would like to attend, I almost feel like, the legislative committee affects all of us, and anyone who wants to attend that as a committee of the whole, I encourage y'all to do that and give your input to that committee, because this is something that is important to all of us. And I think, those of us who've been involved with the legislature a good bit know how important what you guys are doing is, and I encourage you, especially you new folks. I mean, and then Michelle's new, it'd be great for you to sit in and be observant and kind of watch what's happening, and at least watch a couple times so you can get some feedback. It would be great. And I also encourage you all to contact the talent group. Do you want to give them your number so that if any of our commissioners, if everyone got your card,
my card.
yeah, take her card and please feel free to call her and have a conversation with her so that you can better understand this process as a commissioner, because it's very, very vital to what we do. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Anything else, Commissioner Miller?
Dr. Coher, anything you'd like to express? Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Anything you would like to add, subtract, multiply, or
no, I will say this, our chairman of the legislative committee, namely you, have been doing absolutely an outstanding job, and the talent group has been doing a wonderful job too. So thank you very much, very, very much for your attention you pay to that legislative activity.
Glad I get back the balance of my time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All right, let's move on to some old business today. I know we're deep into fee for service, and I'm going to invite Ms. Lori Manis to come up and talk with us about where we are with the update.
All right. I think my update will be kind of brief today. As you know, we went live with fee for service direct billing to Medicaid on April the 1st. It's been a pretty successful transition so far. We do continue to have regular meetings with HHS. We look at claim denials. We try to analyze any kind of system issues. But at the end of April, there had been over 100,000 claims submitted. Our pay rate was like 99.8%, which means the majority of claims are being submitted and being paid. There are some occasional denials, but we try to track down why and, see what we can do to work with providers to fix those. The majority of our providers are using the TheraP system to bill. Right now, all the billing is occurring through an attendance grid kind of model, which means you document your work over here and then you go to an attendance grid and you transfer the work to the grid. So TheraP is working on some enhancements to translate work to billing without having a grid. The first enhancement will be for case notes and case management to directly create claims within their system instead of having to transfer it into a grid. That is going to happen as soon as June 1st. That's the target date. So at this point, that's looking really good. There'll be a couple of other enhancements related to 15-minute unit billing for individual employment and the 15-minute unit residential habilitation service. That will likely be the next enhancement, and then after that, they'll move to the full day res hab services and the half day traditional day supports service. So that's kind of our main focus now, is to try to build the system so that it's enhanced a little more for providers.
How is Therapy working with us on that? Are we struggling to get them to step speed, or how is that?
So we're really just trying to set some clear timelines with them right now. And I think we have a plan that is going to be in writing.
Good.
So we're hoping that will happen. At the same time, it's you know, you want to push, but you also want to make sure that whatever you do works. You know, when you're dealing with people's ability to get paid, you can't go too fast because, you know, so we're definitely working through it.
I'm glad to hear that that's happening.
Sure.
I'm not looking for an answer, but from a constituency perspective, okay, and think about this. Don't give me an answer now. How do I, as a client, integrate back into that? That's all. That would be my question. Because of going to fee for service. So you don't have to answer that.
I have lots of ideas. I have lots of things I could say about that. There's a lot of different ones, but I hear you. I think that always needs to be the focus.
Policy, procedure.
Sure.
How do I inject as a client?
Or what is the effect on it?
Correct.
I got you.
Because we go into fee for service.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Anything
Do
else?
you have something, Commissioner Blackwood?
No.
Okay, we're good?
Any other questions? Good work, Lori. Good work. We're proud of you guys for working so hard. All right, Ann, let's talk about our quarterly incident management report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So you have two reports in your binders. One is mostly blue, which represents the community incident management reports, and the green represents the regional centers. So for the abuse, neglect, and exploitation reports, we've had a slight uptick in the third quarter reporting. There have been 392 abuse, neglect, and exploitation allegations for fiscal year 22. 142 of those allegations occurred during this past quarter, with 28% having administrative or standard of care findings. Those are non-criminal allegations and result in a standard of care finding traditionally through the long-term care ombudsman's office. 3% of our allegations have been substantiated with a criminal arrest. For critical incidents, we have had a significant increase this past quarter. We've had a 96% increase. The total is now 935 incidents for the fiscal year, whereas we had 475 at the end of December. Of those newly reported critical incidents, 20 were choking incidents, 63 involved law enforcement calls, 43 were suicidal ideations, and 17 involved emergency restraints or restraints that resulted in an injury. We have had 21 deaths this past quarter, bringing our total for the fiscal year to 70. For fiscal year 22, 14 of those residents have received hospice or end-of-life care in their own residential setting. As we've discussed before, we have a population that is aging in place, and it is good to know that people can receive that end-of-life care in their home setting. 8 of the residents died from COVID complications, and we had 13 residents that have died from cardiac-related conditions. For the regional centers, we had 41 allegations of abuse, neglect, or exploitation in the third quarter. The total for fiscal year 22 now stands at 181. Similar to the community settings, the standard of care violations have been pretty consistent in looking at dignity and respect and administrative oversight issues. With critical incidents, we've had 99 critical incidents reported through the third quarter, with 61 being reported since last December. Of these, 17 were suicidal ideations among 4 residents, which accounted for 14 of those reports. There have been 13 deaths in the regional centers through the third quarter, with the majority being cardiac or respiratory related. Any questions?
How esoteric are the allegations? Are they difficult for the employees to understand what they're doing when they do it, and they get reported for something they don't know about? I mean, it still seems like a high number to me. Yeah. But is it because it's just difficult for them to understand?
We are continuing to train staff. We are looking at alternative methods for training staff. A large number of the allocations are resulting from staffing related issues. As you know, it's a nationwide crisis trying to find staff to work in the various settings. We've had a lot of allegations of neglect that have come about because there are typically 2 staff working on a shift and they only have 1 staff person there. So the needs may not be attended to in the manner in which.
It's an administrative problem. It's not an employee problem. It's an administrative problem.
Some are.
Well, of course, I'm generalizing, but what I'm saying is it's a high number.
Difficult for her to discuss. I mean, it's a case by case basis, really. I mean,
I don't want to look at this and say we have bad people working and doing bad things. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is more subtle, and it just gets reported as the numbers look bad, but I don't think they are as bad as I hope they're not.
Well, keep in mind, these are allegations.
Right.
When in doubt, report. That's what we tell everyone. When in doubt, report. So an allegation is not always indicative of something negative happening. It's just there's the appearance, there's a feeling that it could have. And if a person being supportive says that they have been abused in some way, that gets reported. And we do have a fair number of people that have an attention-seeking behavior. They're going to make reports because they like the attention that they receive. So that factors into the equation as well.
interesting, yes.
But staffing issues are overwhelmingly a factor here. And I had the opportunity to attend an Adult Protection Coordinating Council meeting this past Monday. And that council has representation from all of the adult servicing agencies in the state. And we were talking about how all of our agencies were being impacted by staffing shortages. With private boarding homes, a lot of them are having to close because they simply do not have the staff in place to continue operations. With nursing facilities, with the larger boarding homes, assisted living facilities, everyone is facing the same problems with having the staff, having staff available and then having them do everything that they're asked to do.
So the community-based providers that submit, that are included in this blue report, they all don't have a requirement, right, to have cameras. It's optional. They can do it. They can put cameras in their facilities if they want. If they can raise the money, they can find the money to do it, that kind of thing typically, right?
That's correct. Most of our community-based providers do not have cameras in place. Keep in mind that most of the community residential settings are 4-bed homes or they're apartments. So cameras are not going to be as easily installed and avoiding private areas of the home.
Right. But there are some that do make that work.
They do, and typically that's in their larger 8-bed facilities where they
found out about an abuse situation in a 4-person home because they had cameras even in the common area that they were able to identify, and actually arrest someone for that abuse. But I guess as
how many facilities are included in this community-based? I mean, we know obviously there's 5 regional centers. How many facilities are we looking at? How many people are served by this one as opposed to the blue versus the green? Right. Can you give us that number?
The total unduplicated count is in the 8,000 range, and that includes about 45, maybe 4,800 in residential. I'm sorry, I don't have these numbers off the top of my head. But the blue includes participants in day and residential folks who may have had an allegation come up when they've received respite.
Right.
It could include any
Huge
direct
number of
service.
people. Yeah, see, and I think that's important for us to know too, is that we're dealing with a huge population on the blue sheet. And on the green sheet, it's much smaller, correct?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. When you're looking at the green sheet, I do know that number. I think the number currently is 573 as I look back at Janet. It's less than 600 for the total population in the regional centers.
Does that help you guys understand a little bit too? So we're dealing with completely different population numbers.
When you look at those rates per 100, it makes a huge difference.
So could we have some information provided to us about what we're doing, what steps we're taking to address this increase? Because it's trending in the wrong way, right? These things, based on your numbers, based on everything you said.
That comes through risk, correct? Would that come through risk constants or where would that come through?
And just.
Go ahead.
It's still, so risk investigates, quality analyzes and reacts and makes acts upon.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know the difference.
We've been
It's hard to figure.
more clearly delineating roles to be consistent with best practice.
Okay, so your group then would give them a
Perhaps a corrective
action plan kind of thing? Okay, that's what we were, I think.
Require them to create a corrective action plan that fulfills the criteria we tell them they need to fulfill.
Okay. And are they doing that pretty good? I mean, are they providing those corrective action plans?
It's not a simple answer because when we're talking about the staffing issues, it's so pervasive, it's a little more difficult to tackle.
Sure.
And I'm getting a bit out of my lane. But
So maybe, we should have HR maybe bring some reporting to us on what we're doing to address staffing, because what the kind of bring some analysis to things and share that with us so that we can understand what's actually being done or not being done. What plans are we, because everything keeps coming back to staffing on so many things. And so I just think that it would be good for us to hear regularly from HR on the topic of staffing, primarily in these what we're talking about right now in terms of abuse and neglect, but for so many things that we talk about in these meetings, a lot of times it seems to come back to staffing issues and hiring people. And so I just think it would be good to have HR part of our agendas so that we can hear what the agency is doing from an HR standpoint, the plans they have in place, the things that the things they are doing to help impact HR-related things that tend to, in my opinion, impact this directly, and maybe in many other things. I think we've had conversations in this commission on staffing continuously is our greatest challenge, and so
Sounds like it is.
I would like to suggest, I don't know if we need to vote on that, but I just think that would be
We
good.
would probably need to vote on that. I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, I
I
make a
wanted to say
motion.
something else before we finish that.
Okay, let's let Ann finish and then we can talk about that. Okay, Ann, anything else?
I'm finished unless you have further
Good work, Ann. We appreciate what you're doing.
Well, I didn't have another one.
Wait, one more
Sorry.
thing.
That was what I was gonna bring up instead of, I think it'd be interesting to, with these allegations that come up, I thought that was very interesting that you just said about the attention that some people get from it. So I think it'd be good to know how many were unsubstantiated once they were checked.
Is it in here? I
Yeah.
think it was something,
Yeah,
like,
there's
you can
something in there
see
that says-
the administrative
I didn't see that.
findings versus the actual, or don't you?
It's not really clear in this report. I'll be happy to get that information for you for a
I
future
think it would
report.
be nice to know which ones were unsubstantiated, because that means we wouldn't be worrying about those as much.
Well,
It kind of give us an idea. you
It
know.
would give you a better number.
It's just important, I think, that we consider the, communication challenges that a lot of people in our regional centers particularly can have at times in terms of, explaining things and sharing what's happened to them. It makes it a little more dicey and requires a lot more investigation and things of that nature to try to determine what exactly happened. And
well, that kind of here, if I'm looking correctly, for example, there were, let's look at 2021. There's on the blue sheet, there's 565 actual incidents that were reported, correct?
Yes.
And then 204 of them had some kind of administrative finding, and then 6 of them would be considered criminal of that 206. So 6 of them were reported to law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
So now that didn't mean that just because they were reported to law enforcement doesn't mean they were found guilty by any means. Is that correct?
Well, actually, the 6 were arrests.
Okay.
So there are reports that go to law enforcement that are not going to result in an arrest because they don't meet that criminal threshold.
And being arrested doesn't necessarily mean guilt. I mean, we still have to go through a trial. They have to go through a trial, obviously, unless they plead guilty.
And on this point, I think this is a public service announcement, if I may. I'm looking at Constance, but we were just having a conversation. Also, the decision from local law enforcement to not arrest does not mean that they are meeting quality standards. And therefore, if our investigation and the information we have in front of us indicates a material deficiency in an area of quality, specifically safety, we will still ask for a corrective action plan. And there seems to be a general misunderstanding that the ability to be charged criminally is not the same as the administrative responsibility we have as an agency to ensure that if we have information that suggests that there is a material deficiency related to safety, we will still request and require a corrective action plan to address that material deficiency.
Good.
So as a case is reported to SLED, they will vet to the appropriate investigative entity. At the same time, the provider agency is to complete an administrative review where they're looking for policy and procedural violations or evidence of employee misconduct. So we're reviewing those internal administrative reviews. And we have a lot of going back and forth between the provider and our office to make sure they're answering all of the questions that they need to answer. And that's where the corrective action comes in quite a bit, because we're having to provide sometimes intensive technical assistance to get those questions answered.
Okay. That helps. Does that help you guys have a little better understanding? That's wonderful. I mean, we appreciate your work, Ann, and we appreciate this information from the commission. It's very helpful. Thank you, Ann. All right, now Commissioner Malferson, and y'all had something you wanted to add to that about HR? You needed something more information from HR on this?
Well, I mean, whenever I hear it's, I just think that it would be nice to have, most of the associate directors report on us on the things they're doing in their division. I'd like to make sure that we think about hearing from HR and having that department share with us.
I think I can do that.
They're
I control the
doing
agenda, so we'll just make a note that from now on, we would like HR added to the agenda to give a report on what's happening with staffing across the board.
May I?
Yes.
Just to clarify, just because we're talking about both the community and we're talking about the regional centers, I want to clarify that central office HR does not have a role in the community. We have a role with DDSN employees. So while we do have a monthly meeting with providers and we attend some of their meetings that different groups of providers ask us to attend, and they might ask us questions or share with us information about staffing challenges, we directly at DDS and our HR director does not
Get with them.
we don't provide services to them. We don't direct their HR efforts, et cetera.
Only our community-based homes and our community-based regional centers.
Right.
Gotcha. That's good.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, sir.
Community incidents, do we have a structured program to review them that all community centers follow, that we can then know what's happening? Or is it hit and miss what they do, or how's it handled when something's reported? Every different center has every different community provider has a different way of handling it, or is it a policy that Malthus has got written down?
So there are specific requirements of what has to be reported, the time frame in which it has to be reported. In fact, failure to report is a violation in and of itself. I think Anne has maybe left, but Janet probably can speak with more specificity on those requirements.
Yeah, so as DDSN issues directives, department directives is what they're called, and those department directives serve as agency policy. Providers that deliver services in our network are required to follow those directives. One of those directives is the reporting of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. I can't remember the exact number or the name, but there is a directive, and it is very specific in terms of step 1, step 2, step 3. The state of South Carolina through OAPA, which I cannot right now tell you what that stands for. There is a law that says that talks about reporting directly to SLED, which other agencies investigate, all of those kinds of things. So that is part of the directive that we have. Additionally, when agencies are reviewed annually by DDSN using our Quality Improvement Organization, Alliant, reporting of A&E is part of what's looked at. So, again, that's that second look to see if anything can be identified.
That help?
Yeah, and the way I understand this, then, there could be 1 or 2 community homes that could be reporting a majority of these allegations. It could just be somebody that's, they can work in a way.
Well,
and you can't break this down. You have no idea where these are coming from. We're just getting a solid.
I think that probably, if you ask Ann Dalton if she could break it down, she can break it down. I have no doubt about that. One thing that I will say is that allegations of abuse and neglect really don't necessarily concern me. I mean, on the surface of it, it's very concerning, but I am equally as concerned with agencies that have 0. When you have people supporting people, a lot of things can happen. And I would prefer that there be an allegation, that someone take a second look. Hopefully the allegation is unfounded and there can be some mediation between the two and everything's great. That's not always the case, but I am much more concerned about agencies with 0 allegations than I am with the ones that have several or many.
I guess that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see how many of these allegations are unfounded, and that'd be a number that we can say, okay, well, they were checked out, there were nothing to worry about, move on. And of those 600 or 565 last year, 450 of them were unfounded. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. I mean, because what I did was take the 565, subtract the 204 from it, and those would be unfounded. Is how I
don't know that.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, I'm listening to the conversation, since this will come up again in August, I guess. We'll revisit the report, and based on this conversation, maybe add some additional data points. I'm very interested in data and happy to provide it in some different ways, and maybe we can come to agreement on the kinds of things that we would like to see. And
be more informative in the next go around. So thank you for your.
It's a great report, but I think
information. Yes.
that would be really helpful to see, what we're dealing with there.
I think one of the things that we will improve in some of these reports is to start sharing with you all the number of providers that we have required a corrective action plan from.
That's great.
That is a process that's always kind of been referenced in contracts or policies, but has not been implemented with fidelity. And I'm really grateful to the multiple teams who are helping ensure that we are requiring corrective action plans based upon the information that we have.
I think it's wonderful. I think that shows us that we're actually giving these folks some feedback and expecting some returns from them. It's an improvement, and that's important to us to see that improvement. So that's great. Commissioner, are you in agreement with me?
Yep.
All right. Good report, Ann and team. We appreciate your helping fill in some gaps for us. Let's move on to our regional centers. Ms. Janet. Oh, is it Courtney? I missed Courtney. Courtney, I'm sorry. Let's bring internal audit up. I'm sorry. I skipped you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll start with an update on our agreed upon procedures report. So as of May 12th, we have completed the review of 32 of the 40 agreed upon procedures reports for our DSM boards, and 8 are in process. The review is complete for 6 of the 9 private providers with June 30 year ends, with 3 in process. 3 of the private providers have September 30 year ends, and we've completed the review for 2 of those agreed upon procedures reports, but we have not received the 3rd report. The reports were due on April 30th for 32 private providers with a December 31st year end. We've received 29 of those reports. 19 are complete with reviews in process for 10. As of May 12th, 2 providers had requested and received extensions through May 15th, and we can report that both of those have been received. Our 2021 contract reductions are currently at $39,700. And that total includes late audit reports, late reports on agreed upon procedures, and also late corrective action plans. So our quarterly audit observation tracking report was sent out in late April. So we've been working to streamline our follow-up process to be able to complete these procedures with greater efficiency. And we're going to continue to prioritize those follow-up procedures that focus on some of the higher risk audit observations and corrective action plans that we have outstanding. I also want to provide an update for you on our audit plan. So we're working to complete several ongoing audits and technical assistance visits. So our team has been working diligently to complete that field work for those engagements in our audit plan prior to the end of the fiscal year. So we recently shifted some audit resources. We added a second auditor to our regional center's client banking system audit to help us achieve that goal. So we're also working on a draft audit plan for fiscal year 23 that will be submitted to Dr. Fry for review. It will be submitted for review and approval to the Finance and Audit Committee with final approval by the Commission. So our internal audit standards require the audit director to consult with both senior management and the Commission during that audit plan development. So earlier this morning, you all received a fiscal year 23 audit planning questionnaire by email. So if you have any questions about the content of that survey, once you have a chance to review it, please reach out to me directly and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I look forward to receiving your responses. May I answer any questions for you?
And when she's talking about the audit plan, that's the thing that we got copies for everybody yesterday. So you all can, we were all having.
It's different, isn't it?
Does it change a little?
Yeah, the audit plan is different for our meetings. So the one that you received was for the quarter that ended March 31st. And
we were all having trouble reading it on our computers and our phones. So
that's the tracking for outstanding
audits,
corrective actions. The last item that she mentioned is her actual audit plan. Which is separate from, it'll include corrective action stuff, but it's just one of the many things she does. So it's got to be much more comprehensive. And
Okay, very good. Other questions, commissioners? Yeah, y'all are working hard. All right, that's internal audit. Please be reminded, she did today, she sent you a survey, commissioners, and she needs you all to respond to it if possible as soon as you can. All right, regional centers, Ms. Janet.
Good afternoon. You have met many of our very hardworking regional center staff people. They're there 365 days a year. They're there on weekends. They're there at midnight. They're there at 3 o'clock. Sometimes I get calls from them now at 3 o'clock. That's perfectly okay. But we are very proud of our regional centers. They have taken it on the chin for several years, in my personal opinion. And I intend to continue to support them to the fullest and beg you to do so as well, so that we can bring them up to be exceptional settings where people are supported as the unique people that they are and positive support for people. So that's kind of a segue into my talking points today as far as regional centers are concerned. DDSN has engaged a company that's called Intellectability to provide for staff statewide person-centered thinking training. That training basically teaches staff how to listen to the people who are being supported, to understand how they want to be supported so that each person can exercise positive control over their lives. They learn through person-centered thinking to help identify for each person what's important to them and what's important for them and help them balance. So as an example, important for me is what my doctor may say, which is you really need to lose weight, you really need to exercise. Important to me is sitting around, not exercising and watching TV, okay? So to me is here, and for me is here. And I actually went to a conference where someone with disabilities explained that exact way. So for me is this, somebody telling you what to do. To me is here. What matters to me is very different oftentimes than what matters for me. And when you're supporting people, it is of utmost importance that we support people in the way they want to be supported. We don't need to be doing this, because when we're doing this, Ann Dalton gets up and talks about the staff, right? It doesn't go well. It does not go well. But when we are trying to balance between what's important to and important for, we have people that are happier. The staff are happier, the people supported are take more pride in their own actions and the control they have over their lives. For that reason, I have requested and we have started providing this training to regional center staff. Since 2021, the focus has been on case managers primarily, also with residential rehabilitation providers, day service providers, in part because of the need for them to comply with the home and community-based settings rule. We are able to maintain the training for case managers who need it. It is required for case managers. We're able to keep up with the pace of the requests that we've gotten for day and residential staff from community providers, and we've started including regional centers. It's new. We had 4 people go through it in April. We had 4 more go through in May just last week, and we're hoping to have 6 in the June class. It's a start, but the surveys from people who participate in this training always report excellent. It is excellent training. It is a way to change your mindset, and we have got to change the mindset of the staff so that they are supporting people, not controlling people. So I think this is huge. I am very thankful to our facility administrators who have allowed staff to participate. It is very difficult for staff to be away for 3 days to participate in this training. So I'm very much appreciative to those facility administrators who are sending folks. I've also extended an invitation to facility administrators. So if they are back at their centers now and they are listening, we have seats available for them. My second topic for update on the regional centers is that the agency has we've decided, I guess, 4 of the 5 regional centers will be hiring assistant facility administrators. Those people will be there to help provide oversight of the facility for more hours a day. One caveat of this position is that the facility administrator and the assistant facility administrator should never be working the same hours of the same days all the time. Obviously, there is a reason to have a few hours that overlap so that they can communicate. But the point of this is to have more oversight for more hours of the day, into the evening hours, on weekends, those kinds of things. Regional centers are large. It is very hard for a facility administrator to actually make it to each building every day and still do work. So this will help. The last item is Dsp salary adjustments. So you've met some of our direct support professionals today. I approached Dr. Fry, Human Resources, and Fiscal, asking for some assistance to consider adjustments to Dsp salaries. You've heard now, and I'm sure you're very well aware of the competitive nature of the industry. There is a nationwide shortage of workers. So I was hoping that we could increase the salary to make working for DDSN and our regional centers a little bit more attractive to potential employees. Human Resources was able to come back with a proposal that we create a career ladder, a little bit more of a career ladder for direct support professionals. So if you start as a direct support professional and you have experience, we can give you more of a career rather than a job. So we think that's great. We are hoping that these salary adjustments will encourage people to stay and attract people to come to work for us. So at this point, the work on this is not finished, so we're hoping to finish that up soon, but we're excited about that as well. Any questions? Thanks.
When it's finished, we'll get a report on what we decided to do in that regard.
Yeah. Now, there's currently like 600 empty spaces. Is that right, Janet?
We have an awful lot of vacancies around the state. Probably, yes, about 600. We think with some adjustments in the salary, we're hoping to maybe get 200 statewide, 50 per, or about 50 per setting, which would seem like a luxury at this point.
We are operating to stay within budget.
Yeah.
But by focusing on the positions in which we want to fill and recognizing that we have had for quite a while this significant number of vacancies, we believe that we could do an adjustment to some of those, increase the salary, and still be within budget.
Okay. That's good.
Thank you.
Think, real quick, of those 600, do we need 600? I mean, I'm asking, do you need 600?
Oh, we'd love to have 600. We would take 600 today if you can find them. But
what we're saying is that would affect budgets dramatically. So you need to decrease the number of people that are employed if you're going to increase salaries for those that are.
They're saying they're unable to fill 600. That is what the problem is. They can't fill it. They know they can't. This number's been growing and growing within the agency. It's not going down, it's going up. So.
And do y'all believe that with this increase, if we create this ladder and do these increases, do you think we're going to be able to get to 200? I mean,
I think it's quite possible. There are some markets, you know, again, you're talking about regional centers that are across the state. So there is one in the Low Country, in the Charleston area, that is a very, very competitive area for entry-level positions. We're hoping it's going to work. I heard this week from Dr. Michelle Zilla, who is the facility administrator at Coastal Center, that they have had some luck in recruiting people from Walterboro to come to Coastal Center to work. So we're going to have some conversations about what we can do to support that if there are people that far away from Coastal Center that may want to work there. So again, in the Charleston market, we're not really sure what's going to happen again, but we also have Florence, Hartsville, Clinton.
Was there any success in the connection with the technical college? I know, I can't remember who I hooked up at the technical college. Was it you? Was there any success with that program, trying to get them to?
They were very interested in doing medication technician certification programs. And so we have had a conversation with them. I think they were watching the legislation that just passed for the MedTech certification for intermediate care facilities for individuals with intellectual disabilities. We had an initial conversation. They were going to work around the information that they were given, and I have not heard back from them, but I can reach out and see where they are.
I know they also have like CNA programs at these colleges, and I know they're working on some stuff federally. So they would create some programs for us for some DSP training kind of stuff as well. I know that's something they go out in the community and try to find jobs that people need and then create programs for them. So I know Midlands used to have a boost program there. I know Florence Darlington had a boost program that did nurse tech or CNA kind of programs. So those might be good sources for us to create a program with, to develop something like that. So, yeah.
Okay. The positions we're talking about when we say 600 vacancies.
Yeah,
And
that's
what
a
we
good
would like
question
to
too.
do within budget is focus on increasing and just trying to get to 200. We are not confident we will get there. It's a little dreamy to think we would. It would be very impactful for the quality of life to our existing staff as well as those whom we serve. But we're talking about DSPs. The direct service professionals, and versus in January, you all probably remember in the special committee meeting, we raised salaries for CNAs, LPNs, and RNs.
Right.
And so we are doing better in recruiting those. And the fact that that was impactful in allowing us to have more success in hiring quality individuals is what makes us think the DSP salaries is the next lever that we have to look at. So just wanted to say, we are still recruiting CNAs, but our area of greatest need right now are these DSPs.
Okay. All right. What are the qualifications of a DSP? Do you mind me asking?
18 high school diploma or equivalent.
Okay.
Ability to perform the functions of the job.
Okay.
And there are different levels of DSP. So you have a DSP1, a DSP2, a DSP3, and the requirements to be within those, of course, increase. So for current requirements for DSP2, associate's degree plus a year of experience.
Okay.
That's where we're looking at how we can create career ladders within. So because we have different levels of DSPs and their salaries reflect that.
Okay, that's great. That's great information. Thank you so much. Anything else, commissioners? Questions for Janet or Dr. Fry? Okay. Good report.
Since it's under action or under new business.
You certainly wouldn't hurt. We haven't voted in a while.
Well, it's a regional center update.
I mean, I haven't.
And I don't have a motion on that. Is there a motion for something we need to
I
make?
just wanted to, because we were talking about that we're doing this, I wanted to make sure that if you wanted to make a motion that we were going to vote, that we called the opportunity for it.
Okay, was there any motion that I needed? Did I miss a motion?
I don't think so. I mean,
Are we making a
Do you want us to go ahead and do that? Go ahead
are we
and
making a motion
talk
to,
about the ability to do the
Oh, since it's within budget, it's not required under executive limitations policy. I just wanted to make sure.
Did we give y'all approval
since it
to
came-
raise the rate to hire more people, to get more people in? Is that what you're asking?
So typically, if it's within budget, we don't have to, but certainly if it is impactful, so if you would like to take a motion on it.
Does anyone want to make a motion, or do we want to rule that since it falls within executive
I
limitations?
just think it makes us, I just think it makes it better to show our support for it by making a vote.
We can do that.
I know it's not required by what she's saying, which
But
is
this
exactly right.
does show we support it.
Just show our support for it.
Yeah.
And so I would make a motion that we evaluate the possibility of the latter and of DSP increase in salaries.
I agree. Do I have a second on the motion? Second on the motion? All right, any discussion on that? Do you have anything you want to add?
Just for a clarification to understand, so if you make a motion to evaluate that, does that mean that we need to come back?
Do you want to come back with
Well,
it?
we wanted to hear what I wanted to hear what the numbers were.
How we
That
can
we
help.
decided to do and and because we're saying now we're evaluating that, but we're not doing it. I mean, my question is, what are we doing before we decide what we're doing? I mean,
That's a good question.
What we are working on in collaboration with state HR is increasing the DSP salaries. It's
From what?
particularly that, we have to work with them because you have to worry about what we call constriction. But compression, thank you. It's another polysyllabic C word. We're worried about compression, but essentially what we want to do is increase salaries for our DSPs to shoot for 200. So essentially recruit, address existing employees who would make less than that.
Okay.
So long as it's within budget, because what we want to do is essentially use some of the the money that we had allocated, assuming a budget of 600 or a filled workforce of 600 with these, more than that, but with the 600 vacancies. Our budget is developed assuming FTEs across those 600 vacancies. We just want to fill 200. And so what we have been working on with state HR is, can we increase, and the answer is yes within budget, but we have to figure out exactly what the number is, increase the salary of the DSPs and not fill 400 vacancies. You know, basically utilizing some of those monies.
money.
So that's why it's within budget. But I don't know an exact number because we're working with them, because you have to worry about compression.
To try to get it right.
To get it right. So every DSP salary, you have like a minimum and a maximum. And then you have to look at the number of years that individuals have been here. And so it's a process of going back and forth. And then we also are looking at the career ladder piece. So we would want to be able to do that, increase that as allowable, so long as it's within budget and we can sustain it. It doesn't create a budget issue, but increase the salaries of DSPs.
Okay. Are you
We
agreeable to
don't
that
know what,
amendment?
we don't know what level we're increasing them or anything else yet. But the biggest thing I would say to that is that's exactly what I want to do is decrease, is increase the number of people here and increase the salaries, and then if we can, decrease the number of people working, because obviously that saves money. If you can do it that way, and that's the best way to do it. But the thing is, we need to permanently cut those positions if that's what we're gonna do, so that we're not hanging out here with a bunch of positions we're never gonna fill. My opinion.
Can we make
That's the way you
transition
make it-
those
that's the way you make it.
FTEs to other places within the agency or not?
So with positions, you have to be very careful with giving positions back, because with things that happen with budget and them asking us to cut budget in the future, which I hope never happens, those positions to seek back out and ask for more positions is a lot harder. So I think what the approach is now is to keep the positions that we have, and then try to get a budget that's going to be optimistic and keep trying to get all of them filled in the future is not going to be something that can be done in a year, but to keep aiming for those. So I think it's important to keep the positions, but to have a strategic plan with our budget requests moving forward that will sustain that effort.
So how would you frame that motion?
Yeah, somebody tell us how to frame this.
I think are just approving, for the budget that we have to address the whatever OHR recommends,
Is that agreeable with you guys? Would you agree to amendment on your motion, Barry?
Yeah, I guess so. And that's vague, but we'll take it.
Yeah, all right, do I have a second on that motion?
Read the motion again, please.
Yeah, somebody read it for us, Tracy.
I think y'all are just trying to approve something where we're gonna use our current budget and the current positions that we do have and use the recommendations given by OHR to proceed with the implementation of the direct service providers increases.
Okay, Chrissy, did you get that? Okay, I'm making sure Chrissy got it. Chrissy, does anybody else have questions about that motion? All right, do we have a second on that motion? We have a second.
We don't have a first yet.
Well, I thought she did.
She said it. I need to say that. I agree with that motion. She can't make one.
Oh, that's right.
So I need to make one.
Okay.
So I will say that I will mimic what she just said.
Okay.
So that this can
Thank you,
be
Tracy.
official. Now we need a second.
Now
on
do
that
I have a
motion.
second?
And I'll mimic the second.
Okay, you mimic the second. How about that? Okay, are there questions further? We kind of understand that, if I'm not mistaken. Does anybody else have any questions about what we're doing here? Mr. Thomas?
No, I'm going to vote for it.
Okay, all right. Is hearing no further questions, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the ayes carry, that motion will carry, and you can move forward doing what we need to do. Okay, give us a report on how that's working and what we end up doing maybe at our.
That's what I was at.
I know you're not going to be here for the next time, but you can send it by Janet or someone and that way we kind of know what works, what ends up working out.
And we hope to be coming with updates of the number of DSPs we're hiring as we.
Oh, yeah, that'd be part of it.
Great.
Yeah, and what
That
those
sounds great.
salaries ended up being and all that.
That sounds great. All right, Miss Lori, let's talk about the head and spinal cord injury drop-in centers, which we've learned a little bit about today.
Right, so you guys heard from Tyler earlier about the drop-in center that exists in Greenville. There are 4 of those head and spinal cord injury drop-in centers that were developed across the state in Charleston, Columbia, Horry, and Greenville. Back in 2003, they were developed when DDSN received a HRSA grant, which is the Health Resources Services Administration. And whenever they were developed, they were meant to expand service delivery to people with head injuries and spinal cord injuries. The number of people, the population size for people with brain injuries and spinal cord injuries is very different than it is for people with intellectual and other related disabilities. So there's not a volume in a certain area to kind of have a center. So state money was used initially. Over the first few years, we used a state plan Medicaid service called rehabilitation supports for some people who participated to try to use federal money to offset some of the costs. You guys understand, we always want to leverage federal match because we can provide so much more service to so many more people when we do that. In 2019, a couple of things happened. Number one, HHS cut the contract with us for rehabilitation supports. So that service was no longer available. And DDSN kind of took a hard look at these centers and realized there was a lot of state money that was being used to serve kind of a smaller number of people. So at that point, a plan was developed to move from total state funding to federal funding in those facilities, right? There was never a plan to close them. It was really more a plan of let's take let's stop using 100% state dollars and let's see how we can leverage federal dollars. So the things that were put into that plan were to, number one, give HASCI waiver slots to people who used to receive rehabilitation supports and desired to receive day services as a replacement, right? So because there's kind of these day services that were already in the HASCI waiver. The other thing that we wanted to do as part of that plan was increase the rates to day services across all of the waivers that DDSN serves. We wanted to start doing monthly reports so we could look at number of people being served, amount of units being billed, right, that kind of thing. And then we wanted to develop a new service to put into the HASCI waiver that we called independent living skills. And so that service is more of a one-on-one service, kind of a 15-minute unit rate service where I work with one person related to training on a new skill or something like that. So since 2019, we've been able to accomplish a lot of those things. We have given HASCI waiver slots and converted them to HASCI waiver for as many people as we could. The rates were increased for day services at the IDRD waiver renewal, which just happened in January. They did an amendment to HASCI and applied the rates across all the waivers. We have been doing monthly reporting. Independent living skills, interestingly enough, got added to the IDRD waiver at renewal, right? So the service has been approved in one waiver in the state. We currently have a HASCI amendment at CMS with that service in it, but it's not yet approved. But either way, even though the service is approved, there's a whole process of, it's a brand new service in the state. We have to write service standards, develop, qualifications are written into the waiver, but we have to basically stand up the service. So that's not quite done yet. The other thing that happened since 2019, since we've been making these efforts, is COVID, right? So one of the things that needs to happen for these providers to be able to be a little more self-sufficient with fee-for-service is they need to serve an adequate number of people, right? Because you can't, it's hard to sustain a building when you have 10 people or 11 people. But what happened with COVID is instead of numbers going up, they went down. So providers have kind of been in this, this situation where they're doing everything we're asking them to do. They're trying to make these different changes so that we can get to federal funding, but we're not quite there yet. The couple of things that really need to happen is, the change in the public health emergency, which hopefully we're on the right track there. And then the ability to stand up this one-on-one service, which can be provided to folks who need one-on-one direction. So at this point, DDSN had committed to $28,000 of state money per calendar quarter per center through June 30. What we would like to recommend is that we extend that funding through at least the second quarter of fiscal year 23. So that would be January. But we will look at it more closely in October to kind of see where we are and if we need to come back for another recommendation. So that's what we're asking today.
Okay. Can you give me a total on that? What the total ask would be on that?
So it would be half of, 28 times 4 times 2. 224,000. I actually put the total for the year per center but we're not asking for a whole year, right? A whole year per center is $112,000.
This is additional funding that's not in the budget now, is what you're saying.
So we've been paying for it.
This would be through the HASCI part of the budget.
It is, and it's something that we've been doing for a while, so I don't think it's new, right?
It's just got to be continued is the is the question, is if we're willing to continue.
Right, that's the question. And with the ability, you know, they're also able to bill for any fee for service that now and in the future. The idea is that eventually they get to the point where they're doing enough billing that we don't have to add state money. Realistically, when we get to the second quarter of next year, I would hope that we would at least be able to come to you with a decrease, right? I'm not sure when we get to total federal funding. Again, a lot of the problem is volume, you know, and Tyler kind of touched on it a little bit, but really these centers are only available in very specific areas of the state. So in other areas of the state, there are no centers. Now, the good news is independent living skills will be a service that's available all over the state. So any provider could, you know, use that service or other services to kind of stand up a center like this. But, you know, at this point, we just haven't been able to get to a point where we could do it. And I think COVID really affected it, you know, because at the time where we tried to make the big push to move from state funding to federal funding, we kind of had a real big drop in participation.
What's the pro forma for this? What is the number we need to make it start breaking even?
So the number of people is a little different than it would be in a traditional day support setting for somebody with intellectual disabilities. What we see is a lot of people with intellectual disabilities need the day service, the day support that they choose, whether it's day activity or career prep or whatever. They need it 5 days a week, right? What we found with the population that go to these centers is they don't want to go somewhere 5 days a week from 8 to 3, right? That's not what they need. It's not what they want. It's really they might just use it once a week, or they might just go twice a week for a couple of hours. So we've got to find, I'm not sure the answer yet. We haven't gotten there.
Variables to the one I thought.
Yeah.
We need to keep evaluating this so we can be as efficient as possible, but I mean, is there any possible way you could section off part of the day program to make it to where they could go into a certain area of it and do this situation that way so that it'd be part of that?
Yeah, so I think all of these centers are truly designed to be more integrated into cities and urban areas where people can learn to go and do things for themselves, right? Versus being in a setting with,
they're not contained.
right.
And it's a spinal cord and brain injury patient, I mean, from my experience, they don't, their plan is not to continuously go to this program.
Right.
Their plan is to go to this program, get the skills they need, and then go into the community and work or live or function. So what they're needing is just that little bit of extra training. So it'll be a continuous rollover as patients now. And that's not saying that person won't eventually have to go back there and say, okay, I'm changing jobs. I need to figure out how to do this job. And go there and figure out how to do that job, then go into the community. So it's a little bit different than a day program from what I'm understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, they call it drop in.
Well, I know it's much different than they.
Their patients or their consumers will roll over. It'll be the patients they have this month might not be the same ones that they have next month. Am I correct, Lori?
That's correct. They don't, it is kind of a rolling, and rolling for when people need it kind of thing.
And this is where that independent waiver comes in, where you're trying to do this independent.
Yeah.
That's the secret to this.
The independent living skills,
That
I
15.
think, is going to be kind of a key to being able to provide these kinds of services to people. I'm still a little bit, I still hesitate a little to see how that's going to fund the center, right? The center base. But I see the benefit to the center base too. I mean, Tyler talked about being in an area where people, connect with their community because they're able to go into that area. I get that. But I think it's just trying more things, really trying to use different services. This independent living skills service that ended up in the ID waiver was actually developed by Melissa years ago as part of this plan. It just so happened that we were doing the renewal, so we kind of, we slid it in because it could be beneficial to a lot of people who don't want to go to center-based programs.
Yeah.
Are there providers for that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. That's the thing. So, the service just got approved in January. There's been this huge push for fee for service. So some of the newer services just haven't been fully developed yet. There are provider qualifications, and there'll be a process for enrolling providers and having them. There's a rate developed. I don't remember what it is, but all of that is kind of there. We just have to roll the service out.
I mean, because it's generally for places that are not in the drop-ins. I mean, it's for the whole state where they don't have the centers.
Sure. It'll be for anybody who would need kind of one-on-one training. It's a habilitative.
I mean, I think it's great for a spinal cord injury.
Sure.
I mean, that's what we did. We had to hire our own.
Sure.
In our house to try to just figure out how you're just gonna live in your own house.
Right. How you're gonna live in your own house, how you're gonna, go to school, how you're gonna go
Yeah, it's not
to the
covered by
doctor, how you're gonna get in and out of
insurance.
your car. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, everything.
So it definitely was out of pocket for my family, for sure, because there was no place to go.
Right. And there's still, even around the state, providers have to have a licensed facility in order to provide the service, but they don't have to provide the service in the facility, if that makes any sense, right? So we kind of set it up so that people would have some experience with habilitative type services, but the service doesn't have to originate from that location ever. So hopefully, it'll be a good service for people. Again, it's not approved in HASKI yet. That's the other key you have to remember. It's in an amendment right now that hasn't been approved yet.
And you'll keep us updated as to whether
Absolutely.
it's updated.
Yeah, the CS, the community supports waiver is in renewal. That has been submitted to CMS. And then the HASKI waiver amendment has been submitted to CMS, and the amendment includes that service.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation by the staff to continue funding the 4 HASKI drop-in centers at their current rates through the second quarter of fiscal 2023, which is when the reevaluation will occur at the beginning of the second quarter. So that's my motion.
Very good.
Very good.
That was a phenomenal motion.
Just reading what the staff put together for me. Works out great.
I thought you were going to take credit for it yourself.
Do we have a second to this motion? Michelle, you want a second? Okay, we got a second motion and a second. Any other questions for the staff regarding this matter? Hearing none, let's, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries and this is funded. If you will just keep us abreast as what's going on. We're really interested in this. It's great.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a wonderful program this morning. It's very interesting.
All right, thank you.
It's a little late, but we don't know if this funding is adequate for them or not, right?
Right, we gotta kind of see how it plays out. Hopefully it will be, but if they don't, they'll come back and tell us.
So what I heard Tyler say this morning is that he needs to continue at least the current rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he
So
needs.
I don't think anybody's gonna close because, as long as we continue this rate.
Okay. Very good. And we want to encourage, if anyone's out there that has caseworkers that have folks with brain and spinal cord injuries and are close to these areas, we encourage them to try to get eligible and go use these services because it's something we are funding. And if you know of someone in these areas that could use these services, I hope you will agree with me and confirm, encourage them to use these services.
Miss Tracy, we're so glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Good
You're
afternoon.
one of our last ones. Go ahead.
I'm gonna try to be quick. We did get word that from down the hall that the air on the second floor is not working as it usually does.
Okay.
So we've got a service call out and hopefully that will be repaired. But I have been told it will probably get a little bit warmer. For the financial update, you'll find it in your folder at tab 11. And just to give you a summary, the current report shows disability and special needs cash at $565 million, plus the wash of the $116.8 million, which totals the $681 million that you are used to seeing. So we are currently at 80.1% expended, which is 3.23% under our approved spending plan, so yay for that. Does anybody have any questions about the summary that pretty much shows that we're on point for the year?
No, but I guess I'll make a motion to approve this as presented since we do that in this meeting.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the spending plan versus actual expenditures as of 4/30/22, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that is.
And she's provided a written update.
Yes.
Additional information if anybody wants to look at that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next we have our director's report from Dr. Fry.
Well, also, I'm not going to reiterate the about Special Olympics because we had that on the agenda, which was fantastic. South Carolina Council for Exceptional Children's Division of Career Development and Transition named Florence's Project One Program of the Year. So I know that at least Commissioner Rollins and I have spoken about this. Project Search was developed at Cincinnati Children's Hospital since its inception in 1996. It's grown from a single program in Cincinnati to over 200 across 43 states and 4 countries. Project Search started in South Carolina in 2014 and now operates in 13 locations throughout the state. Rhonda Mumford, transition coordinator with DDSN, is our contact for all Project Search sites across South Carolina. So just wanted to highlight that. We'll also put that in our bi-weekly update that goes out. There was some good media coverage on it. This commission approved the new day standards and training is currently being provided. 8 trainings have been scheduled with about 20 participants each and 5 have already occurred. These trainings include person-centeredness and the expectations of the CMS final rule, distinctions in the service lines, new documentation methods, and creative ideas to engage participation. Feedback from evaluations has been positive. Additionally, employment training for new employment specialists was recently conducted, and again, evaluations were positive. I want to highlight that the Impact Conference is to be held next Thursday, and a session on value of employment and transforming a life will be presented by staff. I want to just really quickly highlight for those watching, providers watching, we have sent out communications on 2 grants. Both the Think First and the Family Supports Network grant. So if you did not see that communication, I encourage you to look in your inbox. And we continue to hire, but I don't want to list every person, but we'll send that in a bi-weekly update as well.
Okay. All right, any questions for the executive director? I do want to encourage y'all to stay involved in your communities, and as part of that process over the next month, I know you told me where you're going to be at during the next meeting.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. I will unfortunately miss our next DDSN commission meeting. I'll be at the NASTY conference where I'm delighted that I'll be speaking and representing South Carolina to talk about partnerships reimagined. And we're going to be highlighting a number of the ways in which we collaborate with other state agencies. our work with Apprentice South Carolina, as well as the new initiatives that we are rolling out with medical residency programs. So we're really excited to participate in that, and we'll share more information. And Constance is going to that conference as well. We've heard from both Janet and Lori that this is one of the best conferences to attend.
So it's exciting. We are going into the community. That was one of the things that we found when we did our community meetings, that they wanted us to come visit some. And so next month's meeting will be held in Spartanburg at Spartanburg Community College in the Health Sciences Building, room 115. It will be held on June the 16th, 2022 at 10 a.m., our normal meeting time. And it's at, like I said, in room 115 in the Health Sciences Building. And that's at 107 Community College Drive in Spartanburg, South Carolina. We encourage folks to come join us. We will have time for you to speak with us and do public input there. We just want to make ourselves convenient to you. After our regular meeting next time, we will actually have the opportunity to talk with Craig Bird with Witten Center, and we will be taking a commission tour of the Witten Center following that meeting and take a visit over to Witten and spend some time there and get a good feel for what happens in a regional center. I think the commissioners, especially our new folks, we want to encourage you to be able to visit to see what happens there and what a wonderful staff and teams we have in those centers. And we're going to try to do more of that over the next few months as far as doing some group visits to these facilities and our CTFs. I mean, I want us to be able to go out in our CTFs and actually see how they function and how they work. And I hope you all will also take the time to go visit with your boards and your commissions and your communities and see how they're doing. See if there's anything we can do for them and to better serve our constituents. Is there anything else any commissioner needs to bring forward before we close for the day? Hearing none.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Bye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.